Ronas, you were asking for that before this story, and in fact, your shares have fallen from $11 million to now $8 million because of the Facebook stock slide. You know, what do you think now that you've read this report?
Well, thank you very much for having me today. And I think this tells us something that we've been knowing for a long time. And if anything, these new reports should remove any lingering doubts that anybody has that it's time for there to be an independent board chair at Facebook. One of the interesting things in the report was the interactions between the audit committee and the board and Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sanders. It was Sandberg, rather, sorry. There was also interesting to see yesterday how the board of directors put out a statement indicating their support for Mark and Sheryl. And I think what's really interesting there is it shows us exactly what is going on and why we should be concerned and why the company needs to have an independent board director. The board of directors indicated that they were providing their support, but the chair of the board is Mark Zuckerberg. And so that's essentially the board saying, that's basically Mark Zuckerberg saying that he supports Mark Zuckerberg. And that shows us right there that we really need to start having that independent leadership on the board of directors going forward.
That said, Mark Zuckerberg was asked this question on a press call yesterday. Take a listen to what he had to say.
For the board composition, you know, I don't particularly think that specific proposal is the right way to go, but I am quite focused on finding ways to get more independence into our systems in different ways, which is one of the big proposals that I'm talking about that I discuss in the note is around this independent body for appeals.
So, Jonas, no sign that Mark Zuckerberg wants to change anything, and as we know, he holds the majority of shares, and you know, forcing that change upon him would be very difficult. So what's your response to him?
Well, I appreciate that he seems to be looking for opportunities to bring that level of independence into the board of directors, or at least into the company in some capacity. And I just respectfully would have to disagree. I think we are seeing clearly that an independent board chair would be good for the company. And I think it's important to point out that while Facebook is an important and critical company, it's also just a company, like so many other companies, that have independent board chairs. So Apple, Google, Oracle, Twitter, Microsoft, so many other companies have separated the chair and CEO. We have about at least the majority, about 2/3 of the S&P 1500 have independent board chairs. It's just basic good governance.
So, you know, I want to talk about the reaction here from lawmakers. You know, Amy Klobuchar writing a letter to the DOJ. You know, we've got other lawmakers calling for regulation. Take a listen.
If they don't step up much more aggressively, yes, I confidently predict that we on the policymaking side will get involved. I don't know what that looks like. In fact, it's a little bit of a dicey trail. It's tough to figure out exactly how to do that. But I know this, if they don't exercise some sense of community responsibility, then there will be efforts, and I, again, predict successful, to impose it upon them.
That's Congressman Denny Heck there, who is on the House Intelligence Committee, and it's clear from this article that Facebook has upset folks on both sides of the aisle. You know, would you want the government to step in here?
Well, at this point, I think we're looking for opportunities to convey our message with other shareholders directly to the board and to Mark Zuckerberg. And along the lines of, you know, where public officials come in here, I think it's important to point out that the shareholder proposal that we filed actually has gotten the support, has received the support of some critical public leaders in the markets. So the treasurers of Illinois, the treasurer of Rhode Island, the treasurer of Pennsylvania, the controller of New York City have all actually co-filed this shareholder proposal and put their weight behind it. So while Trillium holds about $8 million worth of Facebook, this group of investors combined holds about $800 million of Facebook shares. So we're out there as Facebook investors, talking to other investors, talking to the markets to make the case for why it's time to have an independent board chair. And so that kind of public involvement, I think, is really critical.
You know, some analysts have – echoed your call. Take a listen to this from Brian Wieser at Pivotal.
I think it's important to point out that the shareholder proposal that we filed actually has gotten the support, has received the support of some critical public leaders in the markets. So the treasurers of Illinois, the treasurer of Pennsylvania, the controller of New York City have all actually co-filed this shareholder proposal and put their weight behind it. So while Trillium holds about $8 million worth of Facebook, this group of investors, talking to other investors, talking to the markets to make the case for why it's time to have an independent board chair. And so that kind of public involvement, I think, is really critical.
You know, some analysts have
There are massive managerial and cultural problems with the company, and I don't think they fully, they have not acknowledged the scale of the problem at the top of the company, unfortunately. They clearly haven't done a top-to-bottom review of what they are as a company in terms of what they stand for culturally, ethically, morally.
Other analysts have also recommended bringing in another experienced leader from the outside that people know. You know, what do you think of that idea, and who could that be?
Well, I certainly think that there should be some more independent leadership brought onto the board of directors. Who it should be, I guess I hesitate to sort of start playing the parlor game of naming names, but I think we know what kind of person we need to have in the chair role. It needs to be somebody that's really genuinely independent, somebody that has gravitas and can be able to speak with authority and with the confidence of the rest of the members of the board. I think it needs to be somebody that has a broad diversity of experience, clearly tech experience, but I think also there could be some real merit in having somebody from the traditional media, the newspaper industry that has a deep understanding of the role of media in society. Somebody with some time on their hands, because I think by all accounts this is going to be a long few years ahead of the company, and they're going to need to be able to be devoting an enormous amount of time. And somebody that can really sort of understand the operational, the technical, the political, the financial risk that the company is facing.
Since this particular article was published, have you sensed a change among other shareholders and what they're agitating for?
Absolutely. I have been hearing from all different stripes of investors to indicate their support of the shareholder proposal. They see the value in having an independent board chair. 2 years ago, a similar ballot measure was put on the Facebook proxy. At that time, it got about 51% of outside shareholders. Only more and more reasons over the last few years to support that. I expect that when we do go to a vote in May of 2019, I think the support from Wall Street is going to be much higher for this shareholder proposal.
Now, how concerned are you about the business? Say they make some changes, but there's no huge shakeup at the top. We haven't really seen concrete evidence that users are pulling back, that advertisers are pulling back. That hasn't happened yet. Are you worried about that going forward? Or, is Facebook just so big that it's got a monopoly on that?
Well, of course we're concerned, because we think that having an independent board chair is related to financial performance, and that this would be some steps that the company can take to improve their financial outlook. We are long-term investors. We're in for the long haul, and we wouldn't still be in the company if we didn't believe that they had the ability to fix things and to make things right. Putting an independent board chair on the board of directors isn't going to solve all the problems, but it's a necessary step. It's not sufficient, but it's necessary.